Assalamu alaikum. I would like to open up with the Fataha before I start the Talim or the public address. A'udhu billahi minash shaitan ar-rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim Waladolin. I mean, um, today I wanted to address the theme that's ongoing. Um, prayer, New Africa, Masjid New Africa. I have to thank Imam Tyree for even allowing me to participate. He's a good brother, a good friend. He's doing a lot of great works. Um, we met back in 2008, I think, at Masjid Talim, and I think it was Imam, uh, it was Chaplain Shabazz that introduced us. And ever since then, we've been in contact, via telephone. We just in two different areas, so we didn't really have a chance to really do a lot of work together. But I've been following what he's been doing for many years, as well as other Muslims and people who are striving in the community to help the community, especially with teaching and other efforts that they put forth. So, I was talking to him and I told him that I liked what he was doing. And if I can ever be of any aid or help to him, I would assist in any public address or any other capacity. And, the brother, he texted me back and gave me a date. So he put me to work real quick. So, and that's what I'm about. I'm about working. And like I say, with anything that I can be of a benefit and help, especially to the community, uh, WD Muhammad and other communities abroad, I would love to be a help and humanity as well, not just Muslims, because the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a mercy to all the worlds. And this is exactly what the Quran says, that you will find in the messenger or the example for anyone who believes in Allah and engage much in the remembrance of Allah. So we don't want to hold our prophet exclusively to us. Um, the prophet is for humanity, and even though he went to the Peninsula Arabia, he's for the world, and not just even humanity, the world. So we have certain rights and certain things we have to do as Muslims, even toward creation. We have to protect our creation. So we can't treat the creation any kind of way. Whether it's the creation that we see, the trees. Even during the time of war, you can't cut down trees without a stratagem. It has to be a rules of engagement. It has to be a form of strategy. So you can't just even cut down trees. So the Muslim consciousness is really raised um, as far as everything in life, because everything was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who we give all glory and praise to. Before I delve into this topic, I kind of want to open it up. Um, and like I say, the theme, the community is a garden and connecting your faith to reality. Before I get into a little deep into my topic, I want to open it up with a saying by Imam W.D. Muhammad. And the community has heard this before. He often said, words make people. Words make people. And when you think about us a lot, because he was also, discussing about the call to prayer, which we call the done. And in the call to prayer, you have Hayya Salat, Hayya Falat. Come to prayer, come to success is how it's translated. But Hayya means also come alive for prayer, and come alive to success, because the prayer has success. But also Falat means cultivation. So that's kind of segue into my topic about cultivating. You got to cultivate. We're talking about cultivating and growing, and it's all dealing with this community as a garden because we're talking about plants, and we're gonna get to that. But going back to the words make people, we used to have sayings that say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And it's not true because words hurt people all the time. And I think it was a saying of the prophet. He said, be careful with your words because some words will never heal. Things that you say to people never heal. And I'm just paraphrasing it. He say wounds from swords heal, but words sometimes never heal. And when you think about words, it's a war of words. I heard a sister say that after or during the Ramadan session, she said, in her comments, she said, "What's going on today it's a war of words." And I said, "Man, she got it. That's true." So it's going back to what Imam W. Muhammad said: words make people. So words can build people or it can destroy people, depending on how you use your words. So language is very important. Um, Hitler. We talk about Hitler. When he wanted people to oppress another set of people, we know who the people are. He used words to bring them on a level uh, like a rodent. He called them rats. He said, look at them. They're like rats everywhere. So what does this say to your mind? You don't have a problem with killing a rat or a roach or anything of that nature. So the people depress them without that thought of them being human. They're not connecting it to them being human because he described them as rats. In the Constitution, the 13th Amendment, how did they describe us? They say pro nihilus. That means nothing. That's how they considered us. And we know about the 3/5 compromise and how they treated us as African Americans as subhuman. So this language, when it gets into the culture of the people, it can cause people to oppress other people. People call people pigs. Once upon a time, you had a group of people calling the cops pigs. So you don't think about nothing about killing a pig. So this language, if it's used for something bad, it can cause a lot of harm and death and destruction. That's why Allah tell us to use good words. Use good words. And he say a good word is like a tree. And that's kind of segue into my topic as well. When we talk about this garden, the community is a garden. He say a good word is like a tree. It stretches its branches far, and a bad word is like a bad tree. It destroys things. So, and then we look in the Quran. What does the Quran say? In Surah 71, Ayah 19, it say, I created you like a plant growing. Allah wants to bring our attention to nature because, many imams don't spoken this. Say we don't teach nature. Nature teaches us. So if we want to find out something about ourselves, all we got to do is look at nature and study nature and then come back to yourself and see how that applies to your life and make it applicable. So Allah said in the Quran, he created us like a plant growing. And I want to talk about, we heard of Booker T. Washington, who was into agriculture and he dealt with plants. We also know about George Washington Carver, who they said discovered the peanut, and that even helped the soil, and he helped farmers grow, even though we were still being oppressed at that time. But this black man was very brilliant, and they don't give him that credit. Even these manufacturing places, they call them what? Plants, and that was designed because of George Washington Carver. He the one came up with that concept, but we know we didn't have patents back then, so Henry Ford took that and ran with it. And that brother died poor, but he was a genius. And he used to study the plant. He even used to talk to the plant. And people thought he was crazy. But now we're finding out from recent studies that they say when you talk to plants, it's like an ultrasound or some kind of noise that makes them thrive and grow. So we seeing Some people might call you crazy because they don't understand. They did the same thing to some of the prophets when they came with the truth of La ilaha illallah. They call them crazy. They call them madmen. It's because they didn't understand, because they've been worshiping these idols all their life. So creating us like a plant growing. But one thing we also know about a plant, it has to be in the right soil. It has to have the right a right amount of sunlight. It has to have enough water. And water in religious language is symbolic for knowledge. When Allah say send down the Quran, that's like sending down rain, or he say send down rain. And rain is water. So the rain is also knowledge. And Allah say he created us in water. And water is symbolic of life. So we have to be in the right environment in order for us to grow. And this is what this plant is designed. If the plant is in the wrong environment, then it doesn't grow and thrive as it should. If the plant get too much water, too much sunlight, it can cause the plant to die. If it doesn't get enough sunlight or enough water, it can die. Weeds can grow around the plant. This is very important because Allah say we like a plant. And I'm gonna get into that, what weeds are. Weeds can be situations. It's your environment. And the prophet said everybody's created on a fitra, but it's your environment to make you something else. You wasn't born to be a gangster, a killer, or any other of these things we identify with that's not with that's not with human nature, that doesn't go and connects with your human nature, the ideal human being that Allah created you to be. But we can get in these different circumstances and different capacities by our environment, and we become something else. And this always leads to bad circumstances. And when we think about, and I want to segue into another word, which transplant, because I'm still focused on this plant, because we're talking about plant. Transplant is when something is uprooted and put in another environment. We know from slavery that happened to us. We can just look in the history in the annals of history books, and that happened to us. We was brought to the shores of America against our will. We the only one came over here on a ship unwillingly. So we was uprooted, and we was put in a different soil called America, but not just a physical soil. We was given a different mind and different ideologies and different concepts that broke us down and tore us apart. A lot of those slaves were Muslims. They don't tell us that in school, but if you watch the movie Roots, you'll see uh, in the beginning he held the baby up and he said Allahu Akbar, and that's the whole concept of that movie. They was showing how they was breaking the slave, whipping them, breaking them down, and then indoctrinate them with their ideas. Then the preacher preached certain scriptures, letting them off Sunday, working them to the bone pops in their shoulder. This is what history tells us. And telling us we subservient and that we supposed to serve, twisting the scriptures and telling us that we was meant to work for our master on earth and get our reward in heaven. Yeah, this is what we was taught. And we carried it over, and this stuff kept going for many years. Well, we were so subservient, we had to look down when we talked. So, we had low self-esteem. It created a complex. And at the same time, they gave us these idols or pictures of figures that didn't look like us. Shouldn't have figures anyway, but it didn't look like us. So subconsciously, we was worshiping the same people that enslaved us. So they broke us down. So we was a lost people, and we became a dead people. We was dead. And one thing about, the Quran talks about sleep is a twin brother of death. So when somebody sleep, they look like they dead. but they really not dead, but they look like they dead. What do they call a person that's in a coma? They in a vegetative state. We going back to this plant again. They in a vegetative state, or we call them a vegetable because they are incapacitated. They are unconscious. Isn't that us? That's many of us right now today in America and abroad. But I'm speaking especially in America and especially with our communities. We are dead people. And we got a chapter in the Quran called the sleepers of the cave. We say that in the morning when we doing our getting ready for our salat, when we call it done, our salatu, kairum, and na'um. Prayer is better than sleep. That's what we say. But sleep, you can be looking like you alive, but sleepwalking. Yeah, you can look like you're alive, but you really are dead. You're dead inside spiritually. You're dead materialistically. Because when we don't own them, we ain't pooling our resources together. We are not. Uh, we have money, but we haven't came together as a community as far as economics, and we consider a powerhouse. When you talk about economics and different things, our voice is not heard. It's going unheard. It's drowned out. We just a lot of times on social media, and not saying nothing against this, but it's power in the dollar, and we're not connecting that to our communities and our making our faith translate into a reality and connecting that with reality, so we can be a dead people and desensitized. This music is causing us a lot of it is. It is haram. It is bad. It's making us desensitized. And some of it's good. We don't want to say it's all bad, but some of it's good. But it's desensitizing us to make us say, hey, I'm all about self. Just do for self. I'm solo. Just me, myself, and I. I'm one deep. We hear music like this all the time. We got people getting tattoos with this on their arm. I'm one deep. You know, um, don't trust no female, explicit. We ain't gonna say the language that we use. So everybody is not trusting each other. People don't even want to get married again. A lot of people, they're against. I don't trust you. I don't want you. All these different things are going on, but we forget the struggles that we went through, and it's people fought for us. It's people fought for us after slavery. You had the Jim Crow. You had a lot of these different things going on, but it was people who fought for us because what? They recognized what was going on. Everybody wasn't lost. And some people wanted to stand up for the truth. They knew, hey, this ain't right. And not just African Americans or just not Africans. You had other people who was wanted to be on the side of was liberators as well. You had white people and other people in these movements because it was all about humanity. It didn't have nothing to do with color, and they seen it too as well. So we had to fight for our freedom. We've been struggling ever since we got to the continent of America. And then, but look where we are now. This is what I'm getting to about the community. Look where we at. All of this fighting, slaves couldn't read. That was a major crime for you to read. Go read the book about Frederick Douglass when he talk about my bondage and my freedom. He say, he was learning how to read. The master's wife was teaching him how to read. And the master's like, what are you doing? But once he learned how to read, he say this in his book. He said, I can never be a slave again. And they couldn't break him. They physically try to break him and whoop him, but he said he was free. It's the same thing. We see the same thing in history of Islam with Bilal, the Adhan caller. What happened to him? They tried to break him, but once he heard about La ilaha illallah, he was free. They said, we can't do nothing with it, man. We might as well let him go. And we know the story. Abu Bakr bought his freedom. But what is true freedom? True freedom is being a free thinker and not dependent on what people have indoctrinated you with. And one of the worst things, we don't think for ourselves. We just been conditioned to think what everybody else just tell us to think. And this is why the Prophet Muhammad, the first verses was revealed to him was read Ikra. Ikra. Yeah, that was the first verses that was revealed to him. Read in the name of your Lord. Because see, that's another thing. We was always a spiritual people, but we was getting the wrong concept of how we serve God or serve Allah. We thought we had to go through the idea of the Jesus that they gave us. So we was always a spiritual people. We just had to reconnect with that, and a lot of us have been blessed to get back to our heritage, and because our heritage is Islam. And they also said if you keep the Quran out the hands of the slaves, they would be nothing but the beasts of the field. I think Imam Qasim said that, and I said, "Whoa!" And that's why they try to study us because they know, once you get a hold to this Quran, you're going to be free. This is the freedom movement. Islam is the freedom movement. And we don't depend on anything to condition us to, well, we have to get high on something. Right now it's Ramadan. We spiritually high. I always say I'm at my strongest during Ramadan. I'm at my zenith. Yeah, I mean, what you gonna sell us? We don't drink alcohol. You can't do nothing with us with that. We don't smoke or intake any type of drugs. So how what can I do? I mean, with these people who don't do these things and we stand up for God, man, we got to be careful because this stuff might spread. And this is why Thomas Jefferson had a Quran. Yeah, this is facts because they were studying us as well. So people study us. Allah talks about people in the Quran. What he say? Do not be like, oh, you children of Adam. Don't be like your parents and get stripped of your consciousness because they watch you from places that you don't even see. Yeah, it's really it's plans set for us. But all I say, they plan, but he the best of planners. But it's been a plan, and that's why a lot of us fall victim to these streets, to drugs, just poverty. Anytime you see poverty, that equals the crime. I learned that in one of my sociology classes. People gonna eat by any means necessary. So when you see this poverty, when you see this crime, you got to know that place is poverty stricken most of the time. And then it pours over into the music. So we got our young kids listening to this stuff and they think they got to act on this stuff and end up hurting somebody and end up going to juvenile or to prison for a very long time. This is what Imam Tyree was connecting to as well. He was talking about the Pharaoh is a mentality. It's a system, killing the men and letting the women live. And it's a lot to say on that because that women living, they trying to live. It's an incentivized stem that every word, meaning they are trying to live. They desiring something that they never attain to because they need the other half. But that's a whole nother topic in layers because it's layers to this. And one setting is not gonna do this justice. And that's why we're working. But we gotta understand, we gotta unlearn what we was falsely taught and learn the right type of knowledge. That's what's gonna lead us. And the best knowledge is from Allah. Because Allah, the Quran hasn't been changed. I invite anybody who's watching this uh, to go get you a Quran and just read it. But it's already proven that it hasn't been changed. Matter of fact, when I was in one of my colleges, my classes in elite college, it was a man who wasn't even Muslim. One of our teachers, professors, his name was Dr. Mike. He said this to the class. He said the Quran is the only book that hasn't been changed. I said in my mind, Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillah. I didn't want to say it out loud in the class, but that's exactly what I said to myself. So it's people that recognize the potency of the Quran who don't even identify and call themselves believers. So what should that say to us? That we got to take this Quran seriously. Just don't put it on your shelf, put it in yourself. So read. And then during the time of the prophet, education was so important that the prophet, even when they captured some of the enemies when they was in war, they didn't torture them. They taught them Islam. And then they told them, if you can teach one of us how to read, then you free. What other religious organization that do that? And you can study history. They when people was conquering people, they was burning their libraries, burning everything, and taking their women and procreating, killing off their race. This ain't no new idea, bro. This has been happening for a long time. A long time. And as they say, history will repeat itself if we don't wake up. We got to wake up and pay attention to what's going on because, like I say, we was a dead people. We're a dead people. If we think life is all about just buying up a bunch of stuff, we think we live in that good life. That's not really a good life necessarily. And it's also because it can be a harm for you. Because what happened, and I'm an older brother. I remember in the 90s, people was killing over Jordans. We was killing over materialism. Going back to what I said again, because poverty. Poverty equals crime. And then, what does the Quran say? Satan threatens you with poverty. So you looking at this stuff on television and you was like, you think that you have to have this to make you feel have high self-esteem, a good self-esteem about yourself. This is what's going on, man. Our youth are killing each other. It's an epidemic, not just in Chicago, it's everywhere. And we got to address this. The Muslim, we are the ones who stand up for truth. And a lot of us come from them backgrounds. So we don't fear because we already gained the respect a lot of those guys who was our peers. So, this is what I'm really putting out there. It's going back again to that plant being uprooted. We got to be placed in a different type of soil. And I'm talking about mentally. Pick up your book. Cut off the TV sometimes. Listen to yourself think. And most of all, you got to get tired of your conditions. Because the Quran say conditions won't change until you change them yourself. So you got to want to change your own conditions. I remember reading a book called The Community of Self, and we did a play on it. It had about the ego, the will, the desire. It was about Dr. Naeem Akbar. He had a lot of books, the psychological effects of slavery and breaking the chains of the psychological effects of slavery. The miseducation of the Negro, all these different books, man, I was digesting, man. I'm like, wow, this is something serious. These are serious times. Don't take it lightly. Don't take it lightly. And I don't care if you know one verse of the Quran or you have one piece of knowledge. Just a little piece of knowledge. It's powerful. Plant that seed. We're going back to that plant again. Plant the seed. And don't look for the outcome. I was telling my nephew this the other day because I invited him to the Masjid Ramadan session. I was talking to him at my sister's house and I was telling him, don't try to look for the outcome all the time because that's one thing too about a plant. A farmer or anybody planting, a seed, whether it's a farmer or you have a garden, you have to give it time for it to grow. Bad weather can mess up the plant, Like we saying, too much sun, too much water, all these different things can affect the plant. So that's what we want to do and be that example. Plant that seed, but be that example. That's what we want to do in our community. And it starts with self because before we can go abroad, we got to start with ourselves. What does Allah say in the Quran? Oh, you believe, save yourself, and then save your family from a fire. Here's fuel, is men and stones. So once we get ourselves together, or we focus on ourselves, like that book Dr. Naeem Akbar was talking about, the will, the desires, and all this, the ego. We got to make that stuff work together. Because, like I said, we did a play about it, and we was all separated, but we realized we had to work together to be a whole, because we needed each other and we depended on each other. So those just entities, but we was just doing it in the form of a play. So um, the community itself, get yourself together first, because you can't help nobody till you help yourself. Then the next step, look for marriage. Look for marriage. We encourage that. Even in the times where African Americans was real poor, you seen marriage. So we can't build a community until we start having marriages and having children. Then we build communities. Then we build societies. So marriage is a very important institution. But remember, it's a war of words. The concept of marriage is being attacked. People afraid to get married. I don't want to get married because this might happen. They might try to take my money. We worrying about all these different things, and that's what Satan. That's what he wants. Remember, that's how he got our first parents out the garden, and they caused them to slip. So just be mindful. Um, we want to educate ourselves. Get some knowledge. Take some time, to listen to reason, listen to your own reason, and try to use, your best judgment. And we got to try to make a change. And you see somebody that's trying to do something good, help them. That's what we say in the Quran too. We want to help each other. It don't matter what your label is. We want to help you, because we all got to play a part in building this community. I hope I said anything of benefit. Um, all praises to Allah. If I said anything that was wrong, may Allah forgive me, because my intentions wasn't to say anything wrong or mislead. And I hope that I hope you got some out of the message. Inshallah. Something like,
Wa alaikum assalam, Brother Jabril. Alhamdulillah. That means all praises due to Allah. So
yeah,
I'll say this: I did get some benefit. I got a lot of benefit, and I took something quickly away. Take it off the shelf and put it in yourself.
yes,
So
ma'am.
Alhamdulillah, Al Quran. I don't have any questions, but I have a comment. Alhamdulillah for everything that you're sharing, my brother.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Well, thank you, Brother Jabril. I do want to mention also and bring it to our audience's attention that you are an author, correct?
Yes, I'm an author. Published my first book, called The Autobiography of Grand.
Mm-hmm.
It's an acronym that stands for Giving Reality and No Nonsense. So, yeah, it's on Amazon. I've sold over 200 books. All praises due to God. A lot of people gave me a lot of reviews and saying they couldn't put the book down. So I have other books too in the work that I'm planning on writing that's coming. If I have a lot of things on my mind, I want to use that pen. As the Quran say, the pen. Use the pen.
Very good. Alhamdulillah. All right, then. So that's the autobiography of Grand by Brandon Jabril Whitting, and it's available on Amazon right now. All right. Alhamdulillah. Well, thank you for sharing that with us today, Brother Jabril. Um,
Thank
and
you.
I'm going to continue on with the announcements. We thank you on behalf of Masjid New Africa, and may God continue to reward you and bless you, inshallah.
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 Assalamu
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
alaikum.
So we do have a few community announcements. behalf of Masjid New Africa, we ask that you join us every Friday at 1:30 p.m. for Juma prayer and every Sunday at 12:30 for our public address. The address for Masjid New Africa is 7610 Highway 6 in Hitchcock, Texas, 77563. And also, we are accepting donations and very grateful for any donations that you may be able to provide. You may make your donation at PayPal, which is MasjidNewAfrica@gmail.com, or CASHAPP $MasjidNewAfrica. All right, this concludes our public address for today. Please join us again next Friday for Juma prayer at 1:30, and then on Sunday for 12:30. Ramadan Mubarak. Assalamu alaikum.